Hello, everyone. This is Coach Jackie Zach, and I'm excited to have Chris Nolte, founder of Kayana Virtual Assistants, with us today. Chris is currently the founder of Kayana Virtual Assistants, the Topaz Group, and a partner in several real estate ventures. His career began in finance and strategy, with each role and company building on the ladder to deepen his expertise in technology, real estate, and business operations. So you got a lot of expertise. The journey from an analyst in New York to the head of multiple innovative companies has been driven by curiosity, a deep commitment to learning, and adaptation. Chris has built a brand called the Can Do CEO to support and help startup, nonprofit, and business-to-business leaders discover the power of people, processes, and platforms. So, Chris, I know you love to travel. You and your wife, I think this is a great story. You and your wife met when you were 20 in France and have had the travel bug ever since. You recently visited Japan and plan to spend time in Iceland and Greece soon. I have not been to Iceland, but I have been to Greece, and Greece is lovely. You are most proud of your family and children, and professionally, you love to create business cultures of excellence, wowing customers, clients, and creating new standards for what is possible when great people work together. You love to try new developments and to redefine what is possible. It is my pleasure to welcome Chris Nolte to the show today. Hello, Chris.
Jackie, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. So why don't we just jump right in? Tell us a little bit about your personal story.
Sure. So I'm originally from New York and went to school in Virginia at William and Mary, home of Colonial Williamsburg. And yes, some of the students actually dipped candles and wore sort of colonial garb. That was their job outside of school. Worked in New York City for a number of years. Left New York City just before 9/11 for business school at Northwestern. 9/11 was the first day of business school.
Oh, wow.
So that really was a unique sort of circumstance because everyone went there sort of expecting that the future was going to be incredibly bright and big, and it was ultimately, but but that's not how it felt.
Oh, my bad.
Not how it felt. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for myself. But in those moments, you really had to decide who you wanted to be when you grew up right then and there, because everyone else was doing the same. I mean, people were interviewing 100 people, picking two, you know. Yeah. Even at the top business schools, there's competition. And I decided I wanted to be into real estate. And the reason why real estate appealed to me is I love sort of the physical nature of it. My father, I was a plumber's son. My father was a plumber. And had the opportunity to buy real estate during his career. It was a great end game for him. I thought, why don't I bring dad's end game to my middle game, and so I don't mess up my end game. And then the other thing about real estate I liked was that as you're working for others, you're learning to work for yourself. So right out of school, I went to work for the Marcus family, first the director of real estate at Marcus Corp. And then about 3 years later, after we sold off Baymont Inns and Suites, I followed the special liquidating dividend out of the public company, and I had the opportunity to start their family investment firm, or their family office. So at the ripe old age of 32, I was running a family office. Arguably not. I wasn't experienced enough to be able to do that, but I had a lot of finance experience, and I apparently made an impression. And so that was the beginning of my professional life in Milwaukee. It's been a long road, and I've lost a lot of hair, Jackie.
And grass does not grow on a busy street.
And even as sort of shiny, sort of this illustrious career has been, it's full of mistakes. And what I've been very lucky with, is having someone trust me enough to allow me to make those mistakes. And so the Marcus family has been very gracious. I've loved working with them. You're not in business as long as they are without learning how to make mistakes and to sort of avoid the sort of the obvious financial pitfalls of big mistakes. We try to make small
Right.
mistakes. And I have then parlayed that starting in 2020. I after 17 years of working with them, parted ways to go start my own investment firm. And so I'm very much leveraging the experiences of the past, but in a very entrepreneurial way, as always. I love creating businesses, and here we are.
Great. So what's a funny story that your family tells about you that you are willing to share?
It's funny. I was thinking about this, how I'd answer this, and I think my success has been somewhat through self-criticism, right? And I'm sure coaches like yourself would say that's healthy to a point and so on. But it unfortunately or fortunately, it doesn't stop with me. It's hard not to observe the world outside of myself and make comments about how the world appears to be and how people should be thinking. And so my family, because they are oftentimes and my children, I have 4 children. Mm-hmm. And it's a unique moment. I had one in elementary school, one in middle school, one in high school, and one in college all at the same time. Families of 4 know what this is like or larger. But they gave me my own word.
Oh, wow.
It's called a criticism.
Yes.
I am not, nice. I don't criticize. I criticize people. Yeah. And so, nice. And they sort of branded that for me. So, criticisms are a thing in our family, and probably not something I want to be known for, a criticism, but it is what it is.
Great. Well, so tell us, you gave us an idea of how you got to become an entrepreneur, but at what point did you have the confidence to say, I want to run my own business?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I think I've always wanted to do it. I mean, my first business was in 5th grade, and I was selling candy. I was selling candy. I had runners. I had people collecting candy, collecting orders. In fact, I was so successful that they shut it down and made me write 1,000 times, I will not sell candy in school. Nice. That was 5th grade. So they should have let me go. I mean, I might have become Jeff Bezos. I mean, you bet. I mean, principals of the schools around the country, don't do that to your kids. No, so I was a merchant in 5th grade. Nice. And that stuck with me all the way through. So I was, I think the real struggle was like, how do I escape? How do I escape from employment to actually go do my own thing? When's the responsible time to do that? And the world tells you that you should go to college, and then you should go to grad school, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and there's never a good time to go out on your own. Right. It doesn't matter how prepped you are. It always feels risky. It doesn't. I left after a successful career at the age of 46, and I still didn't feel ready. I never feel ready. And maybe that's the takeaway. Right. And I think that is really huge, right? Yeah. Is that sometimes you just have to jump in, right? So tell us a little bit more about your company. Sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've started a lot of different companies. I've bought companies, remade companies, but the company that I'm honestly I've had great joy in doing other things too, but I really love the business we've created here at Kayana Virtual Assistants. Mm-hmm. And the genesis for this company actually happened to me 2 years ago, as I was sitting at home in front of my computer, looking at my LinkedIn profile, as we were off to do. And I responded to a cold reach out in LinkedIn. Ooh, who does that, right? Like, but I felt like it was talking to me. And it said something along the lines of, hey, Chris, as an entrepreneur, you don't have enough time and energy to do things you need to do in your company. Come interview with some really talented people from overseas. It's a good deal, and start doing it. So anyway, I did it. And I interviewed people, and about 10 people into the interviewing process, which wasn't perfect, admittedly.
Right.
I met an engineer, a material scientist who became my executive assistant. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I was now working with someone that I can afford, that was super smart. I didn't deserve this person in my mind. And I thought, and yet she was incredibly satisfied with this experience. I mean, there are some times where, and again, I'm starting companies, I'm building companies, where we would sit on a Zoom call and we'd just be working. She'd be remote, but we'd just be working.
Yep.
And it felt very natural to me to build a company this way. And I thought other people should want this. They need it. In fact, I started seeing the world totally differently. When I started going on LinkedIn and I saw people succeeding, I didn't see them alone anymore. I realized they were all standing on virtual shoulders.
Yeah. Awesome.
They were all standing on virtual shoulders. And then I realized, well, large corporations are standing on virtual shoulders. They've got outsourcing this and outsourcing that. But I don't think small and medium-sized businesses have really taken advantage of the opportunity. So I started a company, started Kayana. Kaya, the name, is kind of fun. I'm not sure how long this name is going to last, because sometimes you come up with like cool names and like it doesn't work. Like people are like, I can't even say it. But Kaya means can do in Tagalog, and na means now. And so can do now was the name, Kayana. And why I thought that name made sense for the business is because, ironically, I wasn't looking for clients. I was looking for talented people. Because I knew if I had incredibly talented people for clients, the business would come. And so it's actually very much an outward-facing brand facing Tagalog in the Philippines. And so it's a brand here in the U.S., but it's facing people in another 6,000-7,000 miles away, looking for opportunity. Because it occurred to me.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, talent is everywhere and uniformly distributed. Opportunity is not. And ironically, and this is where why I started this company is, as an entrepreneur and business owner, I always felt it was the opposite. I felt opportunity was everywhere, but talent was not. Right? There's not enough talent to take advantage of the opportunity. I can't afford the talent. It's not available to me. I can't see the talent. I used to have dreams of getting in yellow buses and driving to the coast and shuttling people back in. I needed more people with bad work-life balance. I don't want you to be with your family. I want you to work. I need help. Anyway, so that's the genesis of the company, Kayana Virtual Assistants. Hire at Kayana.com.
Great.
And we meet smart, talented people every day. And I go through the candy store of incredible people every day. And I think to myself, I can't hire all these people myself. I've got to go find clients to hire for us. So there you go. That's the story.
So tell us tell us a story about where either someone pushed you or inspired you so that you knew you could do it and have the impact that you're having.
Wow. Well,
a big heady question, right?
You know what? This is going to be a boring answer, but my spouse, my wife, my wife knew I could do it.
Great.
And you can't underestimate that value. I mean, if people believe in you and they've got your back, I mean, does it have to be a spouse? Absolutely not. Could it be someone that you've done business with before that said, I believe in you, I'll back you, or a family? And I think that's how many entrepreneurs get started, because that's where the strength is, right?
Right.
And I think that's kind of what pushed me over, and what
Great.
I get up every day thinking I'm going to succeed, because I think every day it's just one more step. But I
Mhm.
have someone in the background going, you got this. Like, you've done it before. You've done it for other people. Go do it for
Great.
yourself.
Yes.
You know?
Fabulous. So what do you think your biggest learning as a business owner has been?
Uh, so first of all, a shout out to the business coaches of the world.
Thank
Uh,
you.
it's my wife's a therapist. I think
Hmm.
everyone should have a therapist.
Yes.
I think every entrepreneur should have a business coach.
Yes.
So way back when, I got a business coach, and the business coach said to me, he said, Chris, why do you think you need to do everything?
Hmm.
Why do you think you need to? And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what he meant. I couldn't quite figure it out. But what he meant was you need to delegate.
Hmm.
You need to build systems and work on the business, not in the business.
Absolutely.
And I think if I were to tell anyone a piece of advice, that would be it. Now, everyone's different. Everyone has different sort of challenges.
Yes.
But I would have thought that I would have been the delegator.
Mm.
I would have, if you asked me 20 years ago, Chris, are you going to be a good delegator? Are you going to like be able good
Yeah.
at like offloading tasks and work to people and building an organization and working on the business, not in the business? Would you be good at that? I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be great at that. But it's so amazing how bad people are at it.
Right. And a lot of people are really good at it when they are working for someone else, right? But when you work for yourself, all of a sudden everything changes, at least
Well,
inside.
everything feels like every investment in people and skill and talent, like yeah, people, resources, everything feels like somehow getting further and further away from retirement. and,
Yeah.
and, 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 and it's sort of a trap. It's a trap because it's actually exactly what gets you time.
Yes.
The time, so you have time to invest in yourself personally and professionally, so you continuously build the system. And it sometimes feels like downshifting, right? You're like
Right.
downshifting to like this other gear. But it's these are the investments that you make in yourself and your business that I think are probably the scariest moment.
Right. So if you could pick three people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for being there for your business growth, who
Yeah,
are they?
yeah, it's a really good question. So I haven't talked to any of these people about this shout out yet. So, but I think, the people that I value the most are the people that take a risk on me.
Mhm.
I like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have given me that job or that opportunity, but you did. And hopefully you're satisfied or happy that you did. And I think there's a couple people. So one is a guy named Bob Ziska,
Mhm.
brilliant man. He was the center of the Harvard football team. And at one point, I think he could like bench press like 300 pounds.
Oh,
He was,
really?
but he was brilliant. He was a brilliant man. He still is. And he would look at a spreadsheet of 1,000 numbers and identify one and be like, that's wrong. Why? He would never set me on where he took a chance on me and hiring me for a job in a company that was full of Ivy League grads.
Hmm.
And he saw something in me and he gave me a chance. And I didn't quite fit in initially because that was sort of not kind of where I came from. Um, but that chance that he took on me made a huge difference. And he was a brilliant guy, and I really value him for doing that. The second person, admittedly, was Greg Marcus. Greg
Hmm.
Marcus took a bet on me. He was 39 at the time when he hired me, which I would be now his senior by 11 years or so. Uh, but but he took a chance on me and he hired a guy that I sold him. I'm like, I'm a 5-tool player, man. Like I can run, I can hit, I can
Yeah.
hit for power. Like
Yep.
Take a chance on me. And he did. And that made a difference for me. You need, and he did it repeatedly. It wasn't just once, it was multiple
Right.
times. And in that journey, there's another gentleman, again, who I have not sort of called out, but was a guy named Chuck Stadler. Chuck was the CFO of Goodwill at the time. He is now, I think, the CFO of another company, Wild Marketing. I think that's right. But I met him randomly at an ACG, an Association for Corporate Growth event, and he had a name tag on and said Goodwill, and I'm like, I love Goodwill. I saw your store in Madison. It's beautiful.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's not our store. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. But long and short of it is we got to talking, and I started a business with him as I was working with Marcus, through Marcus, and we started building Goodwills because of that connection and his trust in us. And in me, we built probably over 100 Goodwills in the country. Nice. And probably created about $250 million of enterprise value for a really great mission.
Nice.
And
awesome.
But people taking chances on me.
That sounds like a theme, lots of people have seen something in you, took a chance, and now here you are, right?
And finally, I took a chance on myself, Jackie.
Right, exactly. So what's the next big thing for you in your business? You're like your number one growth opportunity.
I'm in the evangelist mode. I'm evangelizing, Jackie. What I do, if I knew what I know now 10 years ago,
right,
I'd be sitting on a beach. I'd be sitting on a beach right now.
Yeah.
And then telling people, and I'd probably get antsy and I'd start doing something else. But delegation is really important. But more importantly, we live in a world where there are incredibly talented people. And it's hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine how hard these people work and how talented they really are.
Right.
And it's easy to just sort of see in front of yourself. So every day I wake up trying to think about how I can sort of crack this nut and explain to people how the world's a big place and there's a lot of people benefiting from this and you're competing with all of them.
Right.
And maybe you should try it.
Right.
Try it. And the reason why, and I'll sort of connect this to sort of business in Wisconsin generally. Mm-hmm. Over my time in Wisconsin, now I've spent the better part of 21 years here. Not quite half my life, but almost.
Right.
And raised all my kids here. I've seen a lot of companies get sold to other people.
Right.
Every one of our sports teams, all of our manufacturers, they're all getting sold. Yep. And I can only come up with one hypothesis to why. And the reason is, it's not because we don't have great people. We're not good business people. We are fantastic business people. The biggest CEO feeder in the country is Madison.
Yeah.
UW-Madison. We have a lot of great people. But what we don't do is we don't push ourselves to find the lowest cost or to drive ourselves to the highest levels of productivity.
Right.
And leverage the world like everyone leverages us.
Great.
And so what they do is they see our companies and they go, ooh, man, they can really cut this out. We can re-engineer this. We could do all these things. And they see the value where we don't. And so I would say, as the evangelist of Wisconsin, for outsourcing and VAs, this is not a sort of job stealing exercise. This is a business growing exercise.
Great.
Find a way for you to find your way outside of your business and leverage the intellectual capital, the human capital of the world. It's there and you can afford it. And the ROI is like almost immediate. So that is what I'm doing. That's sort of, I'm evangelizing, outsourcing and the opportunities that people have. Great. So I love this job because I get to meet a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool things.
Sure.
And then I connect them and it's just fun. It's just a fun, it's a great way to spend my time. I enjoy it.
Awesome. So what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
This really depends on what kind of business, but let's assume you're in the B2B business. If you're in a business to business realm, it's really important to remember that there are platforms that are much larger than you and that allow you to stay in touch with people. And that is called LinkedIn.
Right.
If you're a B2C, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Facebook. But if you're not actively building your personal and or business brand on LinkedIn, you are missing it. It is awesome. All you have to do is be yourself, tell the world what you're up to, why they should care, and you will attract you the people. The algorithm will encourage people to find you. It's crazy, but it's like, it was just before my time, but I imagine dating sites are a lot like this. and so you got to get on LinkedIn. You got to tell people about what you're doing. Put yourself out there. Don't worry, it'll be okay. You deserve to be heard, and just get out there and publish. Start creating content. That's all I got.
Awesome. That's perfect. So, Chris, it sounds like you've been blessed with lots of incredible people who've helped you on your journey. What would you like to say to them generally?
What would I like to say to them? I would love to tell them, I mean, I don't want to sort of end up having sort of like a Barbie ending, where I'm Knuff or something. But the truth is, I think the answer is inside of them. I really do. I think we've come to believe that somehow there are some people that can do it and other people that can't. And I don't subscribe to that. I think the real difference between those people and everyone else is that they took a risk.
Right.
They put themselves out there, and that is the difference. So anyone I would come in contact with, I would encourage to think in those terms. And if it's them sort of exploring a side hustle or taking doing something entrepreneurial, I would encourage them to do it if that's where their passion is. Not everyone has that passion, but if you do and you know it, that's what I would do.
Excellent. Well, Chris, it was such a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Our viewers have lots of things to consider and lots of great tips as they run their businesses. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jackie, for having me.